My daughter tilted her head, smirked, and said loud enough for the priest to hear, "Too bad it wasn't you in that casket, Dad." A hush fell across the cemetery. The wind stopped. My brother looked away. No one spoke. She'd never spoken to me like that before. Not even as a teenager. Why now? Then her purse dropped. A folded legal envelope slid out, addressed to our family lawyer. But what they didn't know, I had the real deed in my inside coat pocket. My house, my reputation, my grandchildren's trust all under attack that day. Who had filled her ears with poison? How long had this been planned? And why here, at her mother's grave? Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now. I stared at it like it might catch fire. The cream-colored envelope hadn't been there the night before. No note, no explanation, just my daughter's careful handwriting. Her new last name scrawled across the front like a dare. "You leave something here?" I asked from the hallway, holding it up. She didn't answer. Just kept eating her yogurt at the island, spoon-tapping the bowl in slow rhythm. Her wedding ring glinted under the morning light. My wife's ring. She'd inherited it after the funeral. I hadn't even been asked. I said, "Nope." She cut me off, standing. "Must be old." "Toss it." I didn't toss it. I slid it open right in front of her. Inside was a single-page legal draft, unsigned, undated. But I recognized the language. Transfer of ownership for my house listed as gifted equity. My stomach turned. "This is from Roger's office. Roger was our family lawyer for 20 years. He handled the estate after my wife passed. Trustworthy, steady, loyal to the family. So why was my daughter carrying a legal draft for my house?" "You went to Roger without telling me?" I asked. Her spoon dropped with a clink into the sink. "I thought you'd appreciate the initiative. You always said I should take responsibility." "That's not responsibility. That's theft with manners." She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic. You're old. You don't need this place. And honestly, we can't wait forever. There are plans to make." The words sliced deep. "Plans?" "Life plans, a family. We want this house. You'll be fine. Condo, assisted living, whatever." The doorbell rang. I turned, heart hammering. When I opened the door, Mr. Clark, our neighbor of 15 years, stood with his dog. He smiled, but his eyes flicked past me. "Everything all right?" he asked casually, gaze scanning the kitchen. My daughter was frozen behind me. "We're good," I replied, forcing a smile. He nodded. "Just heard some shouting last night." "Rough time at the cemetery, huh?" Word got around. That made my throat tighten. Word got around, meaning everyone had heard. Everyone knew what she'd said. "Sorry about that," I muttered. Mr. Clark gave me a long look. "Hang in there, buddy," he said before walking off. I shut the door slowly. "What did you say to him?" She snapped. "Nothing." I didn't need to. The envelope trembled in my hand. "You went behind my back. Tried to forge a gift you were never given." Her voice dropped low, sharp. "You think Mom would have wanted you to keep it all?" That stopped me. The guilt jabbed again. Guilt I thought I'd buried with the urn. "She'd want you treated with respect," I said. This is greed wearing your face." She grabbed the paper and ripped it in two. "There, now you can stop being dramatic." I watched the torn halves flutter to the floor like broken wings. And yet, I didn't move, because she didn't know I had a second envelope. One I'd left with Roger months ago. One that revoked all previous power of attorney access. My wife's silver bracelet gleamed from her wrist as she stormed past. She wore it like a trophy now, the last piece of my wife she could control. Later that day, Roger called me. "Not her, me. She's trying to update the deed," he said quietly. "Came in yesterday afternoon." I stayed silent. I didn't approve anything. "But she said you were on board. That you'd changed your mind." "I didn't," I said. Roger exhaled hard. "Then we've got a problem." That night, I sat at the dining table with the real folder. The one I'd never shown her. It had my signature, my conditions, and one hidden clause that would kill any claim if I passed before revising it. I stared at the page like it was a ticking bomb. What was she trying to rush? And who was feeding her lies about my intentions, about the house, the inheritance? And her mother's death? Her voice cut through the silence like a knife. "If you won't sign, then you need to leave today." I turned from the sink slowly, dish towel still in my hand. It was barely 7 a.m., the coffee hadn't finished brewing, but she stood there like a landlord with a clock in her hand and a threat in her throat. "You're serious?" I asked, blinking. She didn't flinch. Her husband, Jake, leaned in the doorway behind her, arms crossed like a courtroom witness who'd already rehearsed his testimony. "We've been patient," she said, "but if you won't cooperate, we have no choice." I tossed the towel on the counter. "This is my house." Jake chuckled. "Not according to the revised documents." My pulse spiked. "The ones Roger refused to notarize?" I said. Daughter folded her arms. "He's old." "Out of touch." "There are other lawyers," I laughed, quiet, bitter. That's the thing about other lawyers. They still need the truth to hold up in court. But she wasn't bluffing. "Not this time." Jake stepped forward. "We've already scheduled a meeting with planning and development. This house is going on the market in 90 days. Not without my consent." "We'll see," he said, smug. I shook my head, walked toward the front door. "I need air." "Good," she said. "Take your things with you." Outside, I stepped onto the porch just in time to see Mrs. Langley, our neighbor across the street, watering her flowers. She paused when she saw me, hesitated just long enough to register concern. "You all right, Frank?" she asked gently. "Morning walk," I lied. Her lips twitched like she wanted to say more, but instead just nodded. "You've been on people's minds," she said finally. That cemetery moment didn't sit well with a lot of folks. She said it kindly, but the shame burned anyway. That phrase, "didn't sit well," wasn't just gossip. It was judgment with a cup of pity poured on top. "I'll be fine," I replied, forcing a smile. "Thanks, Rose." As I turned to leave, her voice floated after me. She was always sweet as a girl. Something must have changed her. That sentence clung to me like fog as I walked. When I got back an hour later, they were in the living room with a realtor. "What is this?" I asked. Jake didn't even look up. "Early showing. Soft market test," the woman smiled awkwardly. "We're just doing a walkthrough." "Standard stuff." I stared at my daughter. "You're showing the house while I still live in it?" "You weren't supposed to be back yet," she said, shrugging. I took one step forward. The realtor cleared her throat. "Sorry, I wasn't informed." "You weren't," I said flatly. "This is my house, not theirs to sell." There was a beat of silence. Then Jake turned to the agent, voice calm. "He's under stress. Widowhood's been hard." And just like that, the air shifted. Her eyes changed. I saw it, sympathy replacing respect. "Right," she mumbled, tucking her folder under her arm. "I think we'll reschedule." She left without another word. Jake didn't stop her. My daughter just stared at the floor. I turned to face them both. "If you push this further, I'll go public. I'll tell people what this really is. Manipulation. Fraud." Jake smirked. "You think people believe rants from an old man?" "I think they believe Roger," I said, walking to the drawer and pulling out my phone. I opened the voicemail Roger left about the forgery attempt. I pressed play. Let the words ring out like a sermon. The silence that followed was the first honest moment all morning. "You recorded him?" she asked. "No, he recorded you. I just kept the proof." She paled. "But you still have a choice," I said, voice firm now. "End this. Walk away from whatever this plan is. Or escalate it and deal with the fallout." She didn't respond. That afternoon, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Linda from Miller Title. We're verifying your intent to transfer property on Elmwood Drive. We need your final approval. Signature before escrow." "I never requested any transfer," I said sharply. "Oh," she paused. "Well, your name was listed as a silent grantor." A pause. My chest tightened. "Who filed it?" I asked. She checked something. "A Jacob Granger," I hung up. "They didn't just want the house. They were trying to erase my name from it entirely, before the community even knew what was happening." The ATM flashed red. Balance 0 zeros. My name was still on the screen. But my money was gone. I stood there staring, the screen blinking like a pulse on a heart monitor. I tried again, different account. Same result. Insufficient funds. I didn't panic. Not yet. I walked into the bank. The teller was young, early 20s, polite but unseasoned. "I think there's a glitch," I said, sliding my card over. "That account should not be empty," she typed, paused. It shows 2 large transfers made this week. Both authorized." "Authorized by who?" I asked. Her brows knit together. "Your joint account holder." I froze. "I don't have a joint account holder." Her screen refreshed. "You did." "Emily Granger." Added 5 months ago, my throat went dry. That was my daughter's married name, and she'd slipped it into my records months ago. I must have missed some buried clause when signing a temporary health directive after my wife's passing. A signature misplaced during grief. You'll need to speak with our branch manager, she said, sensing the storm brewing. Inside the manager's office, I sat rigid. Mark, the same man who had shaken my hand when I first opened my retirement fund, now scanned the computer nervously. I'm not here to argue, I said calmly. I just want a printed record. Every transaction, every change made. He nodded slowly. It's messy, Frank, he admitted. Your daughter presented a durable power of attorney. It gave her co-access. That document was voided. Roger filed a retraction. Mark hesitated. It must not have reached the right department. I looked him dead in the eyes. You know me, Mark. Would I ever let anyone touch that account? No, he said, voice quiet. You wouldn't, then why didn't you stop it? I didn't say the words, but I didn't need to. The silence said enough. Back home, I entered the living room and found her sitting on the couch, scrolling her phone like it was any other Tuesday. You drained my account, I said. She didn't look up. I took what you owed me. What I owed you. For raising me alone. For not protecting Mom. For making us work weekends at the diner instead of giving us a life. I stared at her, stunned. That money was your mother's retirement dream. We saved it together for 30 years. She met my gaze finally, and for a flicker of a second I saw something beneath the anger, something afraid. I didn't know it would clear so fast, she muttered. My voice turned steel. You didn't know I'd find out? Then I noticed it. My wife's old jewelry box moved. Its lid slightly ajar. I walked over. Opened it, empty. The silver turtle charm was gone. The one my wife wore every anniversary for 27 years. She used to say it reminded her to be slow, steady, and loyal. It was worthless in money, but priceless in memory. You took the charm too? I asked. She scoffed. It's just junk. No, I said. It was the one thing I swore I'd pass to your children. When they were ready. Guess they'll never get it now. She snapped, standing. My phone buzzed with a new notification. Account withdrawal alert. Another account. My emergency fund. One she shouldn't have known about. She paused at the sound. You really emptied them all, I said slowly. Her lips twitched. Half smug, half sad. We're not going to beg you forever. You had your chance to give freely, and now you take without shame? Her voice sharpened. No, with justice. Then she stormed off. That night, I opened the safe behind the hallway painting. The real document lay inside. The one Roger helped me file privately, revoking all financial authority from anyone, including family unless notarized twice with video proof. It was locked, bulletproof, but too late for what was already gone. The accounts were empty. The charm was gone. And the lawyer hadn't called back all day. Had she reached him first? And what else had she taken that I hadn't noticed yet? I heard laughter in the hallway. A stranger was showing my childhood photos to potential buyers. I froze at the bottom step. There were 3 of them, young couple, realtor, and Jake, my daughter's husband, pointing at the wall of black and white frames like they were museum pieces. This one's his dad, Jake said. Fought in Korea, the place has history. You're giving a tour? I asked sharply. The realtor jumped. Jake turned. You're early. You're insane. It's a soft walkthrough, he said casually. People are looking for historic homes. I stepped into the room. I live here. They know, he smirked. You just weren't part of the brochure. The couple looked at me awkwardly. The woman gave a pity smile. Beautiful house, sir. So much charm I didn't answer. I walked over to the mantel, picked up a photo of my wife holding our daughter at 3 years old. Her little hands were curled around a stuffed turtle. Gone, the turtle was gone. Another item they'd sold or thrown out. I turned to Jake. You sold the antique turtle? He shrugged. Pawned. Some old charm. No resale value. It wasn't for value. It was her mother's memory. After they left, I cornered him. You think this will work? That people won't ask questions? That I'll just disappear and the deed will sign itself? Jake grinned. They're already asking questions. Just not to you. He pulled out his phone. City planning, bank, even your church. You're slipping. People want to help us protect you now. That word protect burned like acid. This isn't protection, I said. It's execution. You're burying me alive while the walls still echo my name. You're a liability, Frank. No, I'm your father-in-law. Not for long. He walked away. An hour later, I got a call from Terry, the real estate agent who'd sold us the house 34 years ago. We played cards once a month. Old friends, you all right? He asked. I paused. Why? I got a weird email. Your daughter asked me to appraise your property for resale. She didn't tell me. I figured. Want me to send you what she sent me? Please. 30 minutes later, an email arrived. Attached was a scanned document. Property transfer draft. But something was off. I zoomed in on the notary signature. It wasn't Rogers. I printed the page and drove straight to his office. He was at his desk sorting case files. He looked up as I walked in. You didn't sign this, I said, slapping the paper down. He leaned in, brow furrowed. Absolutely not. It's being shopped as real. He looked at me grimly. That's criminal, and she's trying to bury the proof before anyone checks. He stood. You want me to intervene? Not yet, I said. I slid another document across the desk. My amendment. From February, he read it. Eyes widened. You buried a trigger clause, I nodded. 2, actually. One clause voided any unauthorized sale attempt. The second, it froze inheritance if malice was proven. You always were 5 steps ahead, he said, almost smiling. Then why does it still feel like I'm losing? He didn't answer. Before we continue, has your child ever tried to erase your memories while you were still alive? Back home, I found the living room stripped of its heart. No more bookshelf, no more quilt, no more coffee table. All donated, they said, to clear space, for better feng shui. What they'd done was erase my past room by room, like grief wasn't fast enough. Like my wife's death hadn't already left the house half empty. Later that night, my daughter knocked softly on my door. You okay? I didn't answer. She stepped inside, holding a cup of tea. I didn't mean for it to get so messy, I looked at her. Really looked. This is you cleaning up? She bit her lip. We need a new start. This house is our start. You took the wedding ring. The charm. Now my bank account. My dignity. She set the cup down. Please don't be dramatic. You're asking me to sign my life away. No, I'm asking you to trust me. I trusted your mother, I whispered. And she trusted me. This house was a promise we made. To each other. To you, she blinked but didn't cry. She stood at the door. You'll sign. You just need time. But I wasn't planning to wait because the clause she never deleted, it activated on intent. And the intent was already clear. The banker called my name. 3 security guards were already walking toward me. I was at the local branch to withdraw what little remained. Funds tucked away in a side account even Emily didn't know about. The lobby was quiet. A young couple filled out mortgage paperwork near the window. An older man argued softly with a teller. Then the manager's voice came over the speaker. Frank Nolan, please step into office 2. 3 guards flanked the hallway. I wasn't resisting, but they surrounded me anyway. That wasn't protocol. Inside the glass-walled office, Mark, the same manager who had hesitated days earlier, stood with another man. I recognized the face, David Bennett, a lawyer from across town, flashier, younger, Jake's cousin. Mr. Nolan, David said smoothly, we've had reports of account irregularities. For your protection, we're initiating a temporary hold. I blinked. You're freezing my account? Mark wouldn't meet my eyes. You have no legal right to do that, I snapped. David smiled thinly. Actually, per the attached affidavit filed this morning, there's concern regarding your cognitive capacity. I stood frozen. They filed an elder vulnerability claim, I said. He gave a small nod. It was a trap. Not just about the house. They were coming for my competence. If the court saw me as unstable, everything I owned could be reassigned in my best interest. You think I won't fight this? I asked. David shrugged. We're not saying you're incapable. Just that you may require guidance. Legal theft, I muttered. You're free to contest, of course. But keep in mind, once the petition's filed, public record kicks in. Public record, gossip, shame. I clenched my jaw. You have a pen? Mark slowly offered one. I grabbed it and signed nothing. Instead, I reached into my coat pocket and slid across a single-page copy. Rogers' revocation of all prior power of attorney designations. Official, notarized, dated 6 months ago. David read it. His smile faded. This isn't in the file, he said. Because you didn't look. You just wanted the trap to spring before I could defend myself. Mark took the page and compared the signatures. Looks valid. he mumbled. I'll let my attorney contact yours, I said, rising. And next time, try to come with something other than theater. Outside, a few heads had turned. Mrs. Langley's son, Joe, worked the front desk. He'd seen everything. You okay, Mr. Nolan? He asked quietly. I nodded. I'll walk you out. His kindness burned more than their betrayal. Back at home, I entered through the side garage. Jake's truck was gone. In the kitchen, Emily stood frozen at the counter. You went after my mental health? I said. She didn't answer. You told the bank I was slipping. Her mouth opened. Closed. You crossed a line. I said, voice low. You moved this from betrayal to war. I didn't know they'd do that, she said softly. No, I snapped. You hoped they would. She turned away. My gaze fell on her wrist. The silver turtle charm. Still there. You wear that charm like it means nothing, I said. But your mother chose that for one reason. Because it reminded her to move slow and think long. Emily glanced down at it. Now you're sprinting into shame. I pulled my phone and sent Roger a message. One line only. They tried to lock me out with elder claims. Time to fight, he replied instantly. Got the clause. The freeze will backfire. Because the trigger clause didn't just void illegal access, it reversed it. Anything transferred under manipulated or unverified power would automatically revert under my name, even if temporarily lost. They just handed me legal leverage. That night, I opened the drawer beside my bed and placed the empty turtle charm box next to my wife's photo. I stared at both. I'll get it back, I whispered. Not for me. For her. The next morning, I walked into the post office to send notarized copies of my revocation clause to the county records office. Inside, I heard it. A man whispering behind the counter. That's the guy. Cemetery moment. Now the bank thing? Another woman chimed in. Daughter's trying to declare him unfit. Can you believe it? My name had entered the bloodstream of the town. From diner whispers to legal papers, I was becoming a headline. Without a crime, without a cause, except being in their way. They weren't burying me. They were writing my obituary, one rumor at a time. Roger's voice rang through the speakerphone. They just gave us everything we need. Time to make it public. The teller looked confused. Sir, this trust shows as revoked. Permanently. She was right to be confused. The family trust, built slowly over 3 decades, mostly in my wife's name, had been quietly rerouted 6 months ago. That was my first quiet rebellion. Now it was time to make it public. I'd like to confirm closure, I said, sliding my ID across the counter, and redirect final disbursement to the new account on file. The teller typed, nodded, and smiled. Yes, sir. You're all set. A single tap finalized the move. What once was hers was no longer theirs. By the time I got home, Jake was on the front porch pacing. He held up his phone like a warrant. What the hell did you do? You'll have to be more specific, I said, walking past him. Emily's account shows 0 expected deposits from the Nolan Trust. That's correct. Why? Because she no longer qualifies. You can't just... I can. I did, and legally I backdated the revocation 6 months. Roger's signature included. His face turned red. We were depending on that for IVF, he said. I stopped cold. Your plan for a child involved stealing from their grandmother's grave fund? You wouldn't understand. No, I said. But the court might. Inside, Emily was seated at the table, eyes wide. You cut off the trust? No, I said. I preserved it. From you, she stood slowly. You've lost your mind. No, I found my line. She stepped closer. You're going to regret this. I already do. I regret trusting you with my wife's name. That night I found the silver turtle charm box open on the dresser. Empty. But this time, something was different. In its place was a note. You don't deserve to keep her memories. Yeah, I read it twice. The next morning I visited Roger. He poured coffee. She's rattled. She should be. I've drafted a cease and desist. It references the forged documents, the elder claim, and the illegal trust access. If they push again, we take it to probate court. Good, I said, but that's not all. He slid a sheet across the desk. These signatures? He pointed. They don't match her handwriting from last year. Meaning? Jake forged them. Roger nodded grimly. We confirm that, and it's criminal. Before we continue, would you ever forgive a child who forged your name to erase your legacy? Later that week, I got a call from Pastor Wesley. "Frank," he said softly, "heard some things. I imagine you have. Emily's been asking the church for a special hardship grant. That made me go cold. She told the board you were withholding family money. After promising to help them conceive, she's using God now?" I muttered. "I didn't say yes," he added, "but people are starting to wonder. That's what she wants, doubt, fog. I can only stall for so long." "Don't," I said. "Let it reach them. Let them see the ask." He paused. "You sure? They need to know what entitlement smells like up close." Back at home, I opened the hall closet and found more boxes missing. Family albums. Gone. Donated, maybe. Burned, possibly. Erased, definitely. I stood there in the dim light, hand resting on the final box they hadn't touched yet. Inside was a folded quilt. My wife's. It still smelled faintly of cedar and peppermint. That night, I moved the quilt to the back of the attic and locked the hatch. It would stay hidden until I decided it was safe to remember her without the stain of betrayal. 2 days later, I passed by the local diner. Sally, who ran the counter, gave me a soft wave, then leaned to whisper something to a customer. I could hear just enough. They say he cut her off. Cold. "He's got his reasons," the customer replied. After what she said at the grave, public tension was shifting. Slowly, people were talking, watching, and I was no longer the only villain in their story. That night, I heard a crash in the kitchen. I walked in and saw the charm smashed on purpose. Tiny silver fragments spread across the floor like ashes. She didn't want to inherit. She wanted to erase. The knock was firm. "Frank Nolan? We need to speak with you now." 2 officers stood at the front door, hands near their belts but not on their weapons. Calm but trained. One was mid-30s. The other barely old enough to shave. "What's this about?" I asked. "Sir," the older officer said, "we've had a report of escalating verbal aggression in this home. A family member has expressed concern for their safety. Emily, I didn't even need to guess. Who called?" "Your daughter. She claims you've been volatile. Potential for harm." Jake appeared behind them, arms crossed, looking every bit the innocent son-in-law. "Just trying to keep everyone safe," he said. "She's lying," I snapped. "Sir, we're just here to talk." They asked to come inside. I stepped back. We sat in the living room. Once warm, now sterile. The younger officer pulled out a notepad. "Any recent arguments?" "We've had discussions, loud ones, but never threats." "Did you raise your voice?" "Once, when I found out they drained my accounts and forged legal documents." Jake smirked. I pointed at him. "That man doesn't belong in this house." "Mr. Nolan," the older officer said, "we just need to ensure this environment is safe for everyone." "It isn't, but not because of me." Emily entered the room, makeup pristine, eyes slightly red. "A performance, he forgets things," she said softly. "He misplaces names. Yells over small things. I lost my wife." "Not my mind," I replied coldly. She flinched. "He smashed a glass 2 nights ago," she added. "I dropped it when I found out they were selling my dead wife's things." Jake cut in. "He's become unstable. We've had to lock the medicine cabinet." "That's a lie," I barked. The officers exchanged looks. "I want to speak to my lawyer," I said. "You're not under arrest," one officer said. "Then I suggest you stop treating me like a suspect." They stood slowly. "We'll file a report. No charges. But if tensions continue..." The sentence didn't need finishing. As they walked out, the younger one turned back. "My grandfather raised me," he said quietly. "He used to say, sometimes the ones who smile the most lie the hardest." Then he left. I turned to Emily. "You called the police on your own father?" "You're lucky I didn't file for an emergency removal," she hissed. "For what?" "Yelling?" "For threatening our future." "You mean the one you planned with my wife's money?" She didn't deny it. Later that night, I found what was left of the turtle charm, carefully glued back together, but not by her. There was a small sticky note underneath it. "I'm sorry. I didn't know they'd go this far." And when my heart stopped, Maggie, my niece, Emily's cousin she'd visited last week, stayed for tea. She must have overheard something, seen the signs. There was still one ally, one witness. "I called Maggie. I found your note," she exhaled. "I thought you'd throw it away. I saved it. Just like I'll save everything they're trying to bury." "I think I can help," she whispered. "But you didn't hear it from me. Jake's applying for guardianship." Legal control. My blood ran cold. He's filing against me? She nodded. Filed this morning. But there's a loophole. Something in the deed they don't know about. What is it? I need time, she said. But it's big. I promise. They weren't just trying to remove me. They wanted my name written out of the story altogether. 2 days later, I was at the church food pantry trying to distract myself. Pastor Wesley pulled me aside. Emily came by, he said. Claimed you had dark episodes, offered to step in. Manage your affairs. What did you say? I told her the only episode I saw was her tantrum at the cemetery. We shared a bitter laugh. You're not alone, he said. But they want me to be. When I got home, a folded court document sat on my pillow. Petition for guardianship over Frank Nolan. Filed, signed, dated. But Maggie's note underneath said only one thing. Check page 3, they missed something big. The pastor unfolded the letter at the podium. Some truths, he said softly, can't stay buried forever. It was Sunday. The church pews were full. The choir had just finished, and Pastor Wesley adjusted the mic with an unreadable expression. Then he pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Thin, slightly crumpled, not part of the sermon. This was left anonymously in our office yesterday, he said. We verified its contents. A hush settled. His eyes met mine. Brief, waited. I believe the congregation deserves to hear it. He read, This is not gossip. It is proof. Dates, transactions, false documents submitted under forged names. Frank Nolan didn't steal anything. He was robbed. Emotionally, legally, financially. By those who called him family. Murmurs erupted. Heads turned toward me, he continued. The house was never a gift. The trust was never meant for Emily or her husband. The police visit was staged. The bank account drained through deceit. Attached are notarized forms, signatures, and one item that changes everything. Page 3 of the guardianship petition. He paused. Page 3 shows, Frank legally revoked their power over a year ago. A gasp rolled through the pews. Mrs. Langley leaned toward her friend and whispered, loud enough to hear. She lied to the police. Her friend replied, and tried to take his house? While wearing his wife's bracelet? My daughter sat in the third row, frozen. Jake beside her, white as snow. I stood slowly. Every eye turned to me. I didn't say a word. Didn't have to. After service, the church steps were electric. Pastor Wesley pulled me aside. You know who wrote the letter? He asked. Maggie, I said. He smiled. She delivered justice with ink and timing. It's not over. No, but you just got your first real win. I looked out over the small crowd forming outside. Some nodded at me. A few smiled. One man clapped me on the shoulder. Glad it came out, he said. We were starting to wonder. So was I. Back home, I finally looked at page 3 of the guardianship petition. Maggie was right. Line 7. Power of decision reverts automatically to sole grantor if prior revocation is proven before court hearing. Translation? They filed too late. They triggered their own failure. Emily didn't come home that night, but Jake did. He walked in around 11 p.m., reeking of beer and bravado. You think that little letter ends this? No, I said, standing. But it begins it. You think anyone cares? They'll forget. They always forget. They only forget when no one reminds them. And I'm just getting started, he laughed. You're bluffing. I held up my phone. Pressed play. It was a voicemail from Roger. Short, simple. Forgery confirmed. Signatures matched Jake's handwriting, not Emily's. That's criminal. Your move. Jake's face fell. I could press charges now, I said. But I'll wait. Let the rumor do the first wave. He lunged toward me. I didn't flinch. He stopped inches away, trembling. You old bastard. Young fool, I replied calmly. Before we move on, have you ever had the truth finally come out in public only to realize it's just the beginning? The next morning I went to the diner, not for food. For visibility, people noticed. Sally from behind the counter refilled my coffee, twice without being asked. The man at table 3 gave a 2-finger salute. It wasn't applause, but it was respect. 1. Man stood slowly and crossed the floor. You're Frank? He asked. I nodded. I heard what happened. My sister went through something similar. If you need a witness or a statement? I shook his hand. Thank you. It was working. I wasn't invisible anymore. Later that day, I received a package. No sender name. Inside was the silver turtle charm, whole. Restored. A note. I took it back. I'll return everything I can. Maggie, I held it in my palm. The last piece of my wife's memory now whole again, for now. Roger's text came through at 4:32 p.m. Everything's filed. Guardianship revoked. Cease and desist delivered. Now we prepare the counterstrike. The time for defense was over. It was time to go on offense. The sheriff didn't knock. He posted the order on the front door while Jake was still brushing his teeth. Eviction, a word they never saw coming, because they thought they'd already won. But that morning, under Roger's guidance and with every document aligned, I filed a formal removal of all unregistered tenants from my property. Jake wasn't on the deed. Emily's access had been revoked. That meant legally. They were squatters now. The sheriff stood tall, arms folded as he taped the order on the door. Yellow notice. Bold font. Jake rushed out, toothbrush in hand. What the hell is this? The officer didn't flinch. Order from Judge Mathers. 30 days to vacate. Filed and approved. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about civil orders. Jake's face darkened. He's a lunatic, the sheriff turned. Lunatics don't usually have notarized documents and a probate lawyer backing them. He walked away. Inside, I found Emily frozen by the kitchen sink. You filed an eviction notice? No, I said, placing the fresh copy on the table. I filed 3. She turned, hands shaking. You're trying to destroy us. No, I'm trying to survive you. She moved closer, trembling. You don't understand what this will do to me. I do, I said quietly. That's why I waited this long. That afternoon I met Roger downtown at a law office that looked more like a war room than a workplace. You sure about her? I asked, watching a sharp-looking woman flip through files. That's Harper, Roger said. She eats guardianship fraud for breakfast. Harper didn't look up. I'll be filing a restraining order against Jake, she said. Then we subpoena the forgery signatures. And the fake notary, she'll fold under oath. What about the house? I asked. She finally looked at me. You'll have it back. Free and clear. But I need you to hold the line. One wrong move and they'll spin it as elder abuse all over again. I nodded. I can be steady, she smiled faintly. Good, because we're not just fixing this, we're flipping it. They thought I was buried. Turns out I was just planting something deeper. 2 days later, a court delivery arrived. Official. Case number 41B2097 Frank Nolan versus Emily and Jacob Granger. Fraud. Forgery. Attempted estate theft. That was the title. Inside the envelope. 32 pages of filings. Exhibits, sworn statements. Emily found it first. I came home to find her on the porch, shaking. You're suing your own daughter? No, I said. I'm suing 2 people who happen to share blood with me. You won't win. I already have. You lost the moment you called the cops and thought I'd roll over. That evening, Maggie visited again. She brought something wrapped in cloth. My mom saved this, she said. Your wife gave it to her in 2002. I unwrapped it, an old photo album. Sealed in plastic. My daughter's baby photos. My wedding. Pages I thought were destroyed. I don't want to be part of their lie, Maggie said. You never were, I replied. That night, I placed the restored turtle charm next to the photo album on my nightstand. Memories were returning, slowly, but on my terms. Have you ever been forced to fight your own blood, just to keep what was always rightfully yours? 3 days later, Emily tried to walk into the bank and reverse the trust cancellation. Sally, who'd worked there since the 90s, denied her instantly. It's not yours, she said. He filed all the papers. Emily left in tears. People saw, they talked. Pastor Wesley called me. She came to church. Broke down mid-prayer. What did she say? That she was being punished. Is she? I don't know. But consequences always feel like punishment to the guilty. Roger called just before dinner. Court date's locked. 1 week? Will it be public? Very. I looked out at the porch where Emily once planted roses in spring. They always wanted attention, I said. Let's give them some. Her phone rang 5 times before she answered. She was crying before she even said hello. I didn't call to comfort her. I called to remind her. Bank of Pineview just called here, I said. They're looking for Jacob Granger. Said the loan defaulted. She didn't respond. Want me to take a message? I asked. You did this, she whispered. No, I said. You did this. I just stopped protecting the lie. She hung up. By noon, Maggie forwarded me an email chain. Emily and Jake had listed a second mortgage under the assumption the trust would mature in August. It wouldn't. Not anymore. Now the creditors knew. Now the facade had cracks and debt. Seeps in through every one of them. That evening, I parked across from the office where Jake worked, account manager at a mid-tier finance firm. I watched as he stormed outside mid-call, yelling into his phone. "You told me it was guaranteed," he paced. "I didn't know the trust was revocable." Pause. "She's your daughter. Why didn't you?" He stopped, looked around, saw me in the car. His face collapsed. He knew. They built their kingdom on lies. Now the foundation was cracking loud enough for everyone to hear. Back home, I found a note on the door, scrawled in shaky ink. "We didn't mean for it to go this far. It wasn't signed. Didn't need to be." I crumpled it, tossed it in the trash, and pulled out the last sealed envelope Roger gave me. The asset lockout request, for my wife's jewelry, if proven mishandled, filed and ready to go. The next morning, I stopped by a small pawn shop off the highway, the same one Jake used to frequent when he thought no one noticed. I asked the man behind the counter if anything had come through recently, a silver charm, perhaps. He blinked. Couple came in last week, said it was estate jewelry. No ID, wouldn't take it. He reached under the counter and pulled out a folded post-it. They left this. I unfolded it. One word, in messy handwriting. Forgive. That night I locked the turtle charm in a safe, not out of fear, but out of closure. It had served its purpose. Now it was proof, not memory. Later I walked down Main Street toward the diner. Two older men sat on the bench out front. "That's him," one whispered. "The dad. The one they tried to bankrupt. Whole town knows now." It wasn't pity in their voices. It was something closer to admiration or relief. People love a fall, but they respect a rise. Inside, Sally waved me over. "Coffee?" "Please." She poured a cup, leaned in. "Heard Jake lost his job?" "Internal review. Something about forged income statements." I sipped the coffee slowly. "You okay, Frank?" "I'm getting there." She slid over a paper napkin with something scrawled in pencil. "Someone left this. Told me to give it to you if you came in." I unfolded it. "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't see it until it was too late." I folded the napkin and pocketed it without a word. "Before we continue, has someone ever apologized only after the damage was done?" That night Roger called with a quiet sense of finality in his voice. The judge reviewed all submitted files. "Between the forgeries, bank fraud, and public record, we've got a bulletproof timeline. What happens next?" "We hold, let them stew. Pressure does more than punishment ever could." I nodded. "They haven't hit bottom yet, Frank, but they're close." Later that evening I saw Emily standing outside. Not on the porch. Across the street, just staring. She didn't wave, didn't speak. She just watched the house like it was something she couldn't enter anymore. Because it wasn't hers. Not by blood. Not by name. And now not even by belief. The next morning a letter arrived. Handwritten, unmarked envelope, inside a single sentence from Jake. "We were wrong. But you were cruel." Folded it once and tossed it into the fireplace. Cruelty. Wasn't defending what you built, cruelty. Was thinking you could take it without asking. The clatter of a dropped tray echoed through the diner. All conversation stopped. Every head turned. To her. Emily stood in the entryway, shoulders hunched, eyes rimmed red. She hadn't been seen in public in days. But now she was here. Same place she used to bring her mother for pie every Thursday. Same counter where she once told the world how proud she was to be a Nolan. That name didn't buy her anything today. Sally stood behind the register, frozen. "You serving?" Emily asked, voice cracking. Sally didn't answer at first. She just looked over at me, sitting in my usual booth, black coffee in hand. Then she spoke. Quiet, measured. "Sure. Pick any empty table." No Han, this time. No smile, just cold hospitality. Emily sat at the farthest booth, alone. Jake came in 2 minutes later, avoiding eye contact with everyone. He joined her. They spoke in whispers, hunched low. The waitress brought menus, didn't say a word. 10 minutes passed before anyone spoke again. It was the man behind the counter, Ed, a regular. Vietnam Vit. Sat in the same stool every morning for 20 years. He looked at me, then at them, and said clearly, "Funny how silence tells the truth. Better than shouting ever could." The words floated across the room like scripture. They didn't eat, just sat there, soaked in the tension, and when they left, no one followed. No one spoke. The doorbell dinged shut behind them like a gavel. They didn't walk out of that diner. They were released by everyone who once believed their story. Outside, Emily paused beside my car. I opened the window slowly. "You win," she said. "I didn't play to win." Tears welled. "Why do you hate me?" "I don't," I said. "I just finally stopped lying for you." That night Maggie dropped by. "They're trying to borrow from my mom now," she said. "Said it's for legal fees." "What did she say?" She slammed the door. We both smiled briefly. Maggie handed me something wrapped in soft cloth again. "I fixed the clasp," she said. "The turtle charm. Repaired again, this time with gold solder, stronger, scarred but secure. It'll never be perfect," she added. "It's not supposed to be," I replied. "It's supposed to survive." Have you ever watched someone unravel in the same place they used to shine? The next morning, Pastor Wesley stopped me outside church. "Word is," he said, "Jake's facing internal review for fraud. His license is in danger." "He earned that," I said. Wesley nodded. "And Emily?" "She's figuring out what it feels like to be on the other side of silence." He put a hand on my shoulder. "You still open to forgiveness?" I hesitated. Maybe, but not without consequences. Later, I walked through the garden behind the church, the same one Emily's mother helped plant years ago. Roses were blooming, red, alive. I placed the turtle charm beneath the roots of one, not to bury it, to let it rest. The courthouse hearing was now 5 days away. Harper called. "We're ready," she said. Witnesses lined up. Evidence airtight. I looked out at the lawn where Emily once played with a bubble wand, chasing butterflies. "Let's finish this." The judge asked me one question. "Do you wish to retain full control of your estate?" I didn't blink. "Yes, Your Honor. And I wish to revise my will." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No jury. Just benches, one raised table, and too many eyes. Emily and Jake sat across from me. Hair brushed, clothes ironed, posture tight. But even their suits couldn't hide the exhaustion underneath. Roger sat beside me. Harper stood tall, blazer crisp, voice like steel. "Your Honor," she began, "we're not just here to argue against guardianship fraud. We're here to show intent, premeditated, sustained, and manipulative. The evidence speaks." She handed the judge a folder. Inside, forged signatures. Frozen accounts. Cease and desist orders. The police report. The bank surveillance footage. The turtle charm documented. A photo of the eviction notice. The anonymous church letter. Every chapter of betrayal. In sequence, Emily's lawyer tried to pivot. She was overwhelmed, grieving, desperate to build a future. But the judge wasn't moved. Desperation doesn't entitle one to theft, he said. Jake tried to speak. Harper shut him down. "Mr. Granger, are you licensed to practice estate planning in the state of Colorado?" "No," he muttered. "Then why did you file documents in your father-in-law's name?" He froze. After the hearing, the judge asked if I wished to file any updates to my estate plan. I stood.
"Yes, I've already submitted revisions." Harper handed over a separate envelope.
The judge opened it, nodded, and stamped the top page. "It is done," he said. Emily turned in her seat. "What did you do?" I looked her in the eyes. "I gave your mother's charity, the Widows of Fremont Foundation, everything. The trust, the house, the insurance. It's all theirs now." "You're lying," Jake whispered. Roger stood. "It's legal, irrevocable. You stole from the future, so I gave the past to someone who would honor it." Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Just 2 of them. But cameras rolled. "Mr. Nolan," one said, "why donate your entire estate instead of passing it to family?" I turned to the lens. "Because family isn't just blood, it's behavior." Then I walked to the car. That night I sat with Maggie on the porch. She handed me a check. "What's this?" I asked. "Money from the auction." "I didn't authorize any auction." "I know," she smiled. "But after the news aired, people started donating. They wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For doing what most people are too scared to do." I folded the check. "We'll use it to fix the shelter's roof," she nodded. We returned to the garden. I dug up the turtle charm, still intact. and tied it to the memorial bench beside the roses, not to keep, to leave behind, so no one forgets what was protected and why. If you could rewrite your legacy right now, who would you leave it to? 2 days later, I received a letter from the foundation. Your gift will feed 128 widows for 1 year. Their names will live because of your wife's memory. I read it twice, then 3 times. Then placed it in the same box where my wife kept the birth certificate of our daughter, back when she was innocent. Back when this future wasn't even imagined. Emily didn't call, didn't text, didn't ask for forgiveness, but that was all right. Sometimes silence is its own confession. Final fallout begins. That Friday. The diner held a fundraiser for the foundation. People gathered, cheered, shared stories. Jake stood across the street, watching, Emily beside him. Neither dared walk in, because the door wasn't theirs anymore. She waited outside my front door for hours. Didn't knock, didn't call, just cried like she was still my little girl. I watched from behind the curtain. She sat cross-legged on the porch, shoulders trembling, hair tucked under a hoodie. No Jake, no lawyers, just her. The version of Emily I hadn't seen in over 20 years. The version who used to make handmade cards for her mother. Who wrote "Love You, Daddy" in purple crayon. That version had been gone a long time. But pain has a way of stripping people back down to their real selves. Just after sunset, I opened the door. She didn't stand. She looked up and whispered, "I lost everything." I nodded. Sometimes losing is the only way to see. She broke. Sobbed so hard I thought the porch boards might crack. I'm sorry. I was scared. I was angry. You thought love was a transaction, I said. That I owed you everything just because I created you. She didn't argue. Didn't even breathe for a second. I don't expect anything anymore, she whispered. But I want to try again. As your daughter. No paperwork. No conditions, I sat beside her. You tried to erase me, I said. Erase your mother's memory. Rewrite history. I know. You forged my name. I know. You called the police. I hate myself for it. Apologies don't undo the damage. They only prove you finally noticed the wreckage. She pulled something from her jacket. A photograph. It was the last picture taken of her and her mother, 2 weeks before the diagnosis. They were laughing, mid-laugh, like they didn't know the world was about to change. I kept it, she said. Offering it, I didn't take it. Instead, I pulled something from my pocket, an envelope. She blinked. What is this? I handed it to her. Inside was a single photograph. One she hadn't seen in years. Her mother sitting on that same porch, holding a letter in her hands. One she wrote the week before she passed. Emily read the handwriting. Eyes widened, it said, "If Emily ever forgets who she is, remind her who we are." She covered her mouth, tears falling freely now. Dad. I stood. You asked for a second chance. I'm not giving it to you. I'm offering you the chance to earn it. Her lips quivered. How? I nodded toward the community board outside the church. They're looking for volunteers for the foundation fundraiser next week. I'll be there, she said. Immediately, I didn't say you could speak, or explain, or take credit. I won't. You'll serve coffee, take out trash, set chairs. I'll do all of it. I handed her a tiny silver key. She stared. The safe in the attic? I said. That's your mother's quilt. If you show me you still carry her values, maybe you'll earn it back. She nodded, clutching the key like it was oxygen. Have you ever made someone earn your forgiveness, not with words but with work? 2 days later, she showed up at the church before sunrise. Didn't wear makeup. Didn't bring Jake, didn't even sit down, just swept. Set up folding tables. Made coffee. Washed dishes. No one said anything, but everyone saw. Even Sally. She's trying, she muttered to me. I nodded. Trying wasn't enough. But it was something. That night, I placed the photo of her and her mother on the fridge, the one she gave me. Didn't do it for her, I did it because I realized her mother would have given her the chance to make it right, so I could, too, maybe eventually. The town meeting was tomorrow, the final truth, the final choice, and a room full of people ready to see who I had become, and who she still might be. The room was full, packed shoulder to shoulder, And when I walked in, the first person stood, then the next, then all of them. The town hall had never hosted this many people, folding chairs lined every inch, extra seating pulled from classrooms. Even the janitor stood in the back, arms crossed, nodding as I passed. Pastor Wesley called it a community testimony night, but everyone knew what it really was. Judgment Day, not in a court. Not in a church, but in the court of us. Sally opened the mic. I watched a man lose his wife, then nearly lose his name, she said. But he stood his ground, and I believe in second chances, because I believe in earned respect. She stepped back. Others spoke. Mrs. Langley, Joe from the bank, Maggie steady and clear. I watched what happened, Maggie said. And I chose to do what most people don't. I told the truth when it mattered. People clapped, then silence, and then... Emily stood. She walked to the front slowly. No makeup. No script. No husband by her side. I hurt my father, she said. I betrayed everything my mother raised me to believe in. No one interrupted. I lied. I forged. I stole. But most of all, I tried to rewrite a story that wasn't mine to touch. A pause. I'm not asking for forgiveness tonight. I'm showing up. And I'll keep showing up until my presence isn't a burden to this room. She stepped down. No applause. But no boos either, just silence, and that was enough. Then Pastor Wesley gestured toward me. Frank? I stood, walked forward slowly, held no papers. Just a single item in my hand. The silver turtle charm restored, glinting under the overhead light. My wife believed in 3 things, I began. Dignity, truth, and earned grace. I looked at the crowd. Some people thought I was cruel for defending what was mine, but I wasn't defending a house or money or reputation. I held up the charm. I was defending this. A memory, a promise, a legacy. They tried to bury me in silence, but I made them remember what noise dignity makes. The room was quiet. Then Pastor Wesley stood and began to clap. Sally followed, then Maggie, then the janitor, and slowly, the entire room rose to their feet, not cheering, just standing, together. Outside, under the parking lot lights, Emily approached. I'll keep coming, she said, no matter how long it takes. I nodded. She handed me a folded note. I opened it hours later. Inside, a sketch. The charm, drawn by her hand, underneath. One day I'll be someone she'd be proud of. I placed the charm into the memorial glass box at the foundation. It would stay there, visible, safe, permanent. Not just a keepsake, a warning, and a standard. Tell me, has someone ever tried to erase your name, your value, your legacy, and failed? Let me know in the comments. Because sometimes silence isn't peace, and it's betrayal and dignity. Dignity is loud.